You are making God suffer, not a stranger, not some force in the sky, not a name you learned as a kid that you never really believed could feel anything. You, with your choices, your silence, your slow drift, are literally hurting the perfect being who lacks nothing. And before you scroll past that, before you tell yourself God is too big to be affected by what you do, I need you to lock in right here. Because Isaiah 63 verse 10 says this, "But they rebelled and grieved his Holy Spirit. Therefore he was turned to be their enemy, and himself fought against them." Grief equals hurt. Grief equals pain and suffering. This is what it looks like when God is not okay with what you are doing. And being not okay with someone who loves you is not the same as the cold judgment of a stranger. It hits so much different than that. And if that does not make you think twice, I don't know what will. Look at what comes just before verse 10. When Israel walked with God, God fought for them. Every battle, every sea that opened, every enemy that fell. But when Israel rebelled against God, God fought against their rebellion. The same power, the same God, turned in the opposite direction. Not because he stopped loving them, but because real love cannot just sit there quietly while the person it loves walks straight toward destruction. That is not love. That is just watching. Go back further. Genesis 6. What people were doing back then was not just wrong behavior. It genuinely grieved God's heart. And the same thing shows up in Psalm 78, verse 40. How oft did they rebel against him in the wilderness and grieve him in the desert? Sin reaches the heart of God, not just the rules of God. Your sin is hurting God, and I am not playing with you. We grieve his heart, offend his holiness, reject his love, and wound the relationship. And I need you to actually feel the weight of who exactly it is you are wounding. Because you did not grieve a distant God. You grieved the God who carried you. You did not ghost a stranger. You ghosted the one who rescued you. You did not rebel against someone who hated you. You rebelled against the one who loved you. That changes everything. Because the Holy Spirit is not just a force. The Spirit is personal. You do not grieve electricity. You do not grieve wind. You grieve someone who loves, knows, and relates. And that is why Paul writes in Ephesians 4, verse 30, "Do not grieve the Holy Spirit of God, in whom you are sealed unto the day of redemption." The Spirit who keeps you safe can still be hurt by how you live. That should stop you in your tracks. And do not make the mistake of thinking this is only about the big sins, the ones that make headlines, the ones that blow up families in an obvious moment. The context of Ephesians 4 is bitterness, anger, lying, corrupt speech, slander, unforgiveness. So grieving the Spirit is not only about the big obvious sins. It is low-key the daily ways you push back against his holiness. In your words, your attitude, your pride, your silence. That stuff is not as small as you think it is. This means the question is not something far away. The question is about your Monday morning, your text message, your silent anger, your hidden life, the bitterness you have been holding on to like it is yours to keep. Bro, those things are making God grieve. Real talk, you do not want God to be your enemy. God does not stop being holy. God does not stop loving. But you do not want his love coming at you as discipline and judgment. This was not ignorance. This was not weakness. This was a willful turning away, a betrayal by someone he loved openly, loudly, and at a real cost. That is the wound, because he is like a father who loves his son. And if the son runs toward destruction, love may no longer feel soft. Love may confront, block, expose, and correct. And what feels like opposition is still the fingerprint of someone who refuses to let go. He is not done with you. He is just not going to be quiet about it either. Not even joking. David did not only ask for forgiveness, he begged not to lose God's presence. A sensitive heart is more scared of distance from God than any consequence from people. That is built different. That is maturity. Because the heart behind the sin hurts God. Rebellion is not just failure. Rebellion is saying, I know God's way and I choose mine anyway. It is not ignorance. It is resistance. And the deeper wound is not just that you fell. It is that you pushed away the God who had been carrying you the whole time. That is the part that hurts him. Salvation does not make you careless. It makes you sensitive. A mature believer does not only ask, is this sin? A mature believer asks, does this grieve the Spirit? Because the Spirit is grieved when the people he loves get too comfortable with what he is trying to remove. Rebellion after receiving mercy. Hardness after hearing truth. Bitterness after being forgiven. Pride that pushes back against correction. Unbelief after seeing his faithfulness. Living like God's presence is not even a big deal. Like it costs you nothing to walk away. That is giving someone who has forgotten what they have. But this is the thing that should break you and put you back together at the same time. Grief proves love, not hatred. You do not grieve deeply over someone you do not care about. Sin is not only breaking God's rules. Sin is grieving God's Spirit, taking the one who carried you and treating him like a stranger. And if we keep pushing back against him, we may start to feel his holiness as something working against us instead of something protecting us. And nobody wants to end up there. But the same God who was grieved is the God who still calls you back. The Spirit who can be grieved is the Spirit who restores, convicts, cleans you up, and leads you home. He was wounded, and he still chose you. That is not religion. That is love.